Welcome everyone. I'm going to get started on this week's content. We were learning about the consciousness and how that can affect us, our different states of mind, if we're under the influence, if we are taking any sort of drugs or narcotics. All those things can affect our state of mind and in turn how we perceive the world. So I'm going to share my screen. All right. Okay. And I'm going to hide myself because that is distracting to me. So let me see if I can do that now. All right. So we're going to be talking about states of consciousness. But before we talk about that, we have to talk about what is consciousness? What is this concept of it? So thinking about yourself making a decision in everyday life. In this picture, it shows two different types of Dorito bags. Are you one who just goes shopping and picks the first thing off the shelf, kind of just, either picking the same thing that you always get every week or just picking something that is similar to what you want and in and out in 30 minutes? Or are you a shopper who makes a list and goes down every aisle and compares and contrasts everything and ends up staying at the grocery store for 2 hours? I'm more the latter, but I can really value how time-saving it is if you are the former. So thinking about that, this all has to do with consciousness, how conscious you are of the choices you make and what you spend your time on. Okay, so we have two states of consciousness overall. The first is waking consciousness, and this is a combination of subjective experiences and internal mental activities. So it's this awareness of one's existence. This is when you're wide awake. There's nothing that has gone into your system to alter you in any way. Usually it's first thing in the morning, even before your cup of coffee, because that cup of coffee also gives you an altered state of consciousness. So then we go into the second part, which is the altered states of consciousness, also known as altered states of awareness. So thinking about that, what would be some altered states of consciousness? And this is something that I want you to kind of sit there and think about and hopefully have some examples in your notebooks that you can pull from, because this will definitely be on the quiz. All right, so I'm going to list a couple, but of course there's going to be more. And as you think about it, please feel free to share and talk to others about what things can kind of affect that consciousness. So the first is sleep. This is a normal, thing that you have to do. You have to do it in order to kind of rebuild your neural pathways, and it is known that if you study before you fall asleep, it kind of does the work for you, and it helps you the next day retrieve the information, which we'll learn more about that when we get to the chapter on memory. So sleep is an altered state of consciousness. Sleep disorders kind of stem from that, such as narcolepsy, sleep apnea, and sleepwalking. Narcolepsy is more so when you will fall asleep at random, but it can be really dangerous for people to, do that, especially when it kind of limits them going out to do different things. It limits driving, all of that. Sleep apnea, this has been shown to be more prevalent in people who are overweight, but there seems to be a combined kind of connection between these two. So people who are at an increased risk for sleep apnea often are obese. but yet people who experience sleep apnea often gain weight quickly. So it's kind of like this two-tonged, same kind of outcome sphere of, um, there's this issue. We don't know whether the weight causes it or if there's something that happens in your sleep that affects it, but that's just kind of like an aside fact of that. And sleepwalking. Another altered state is meditation. And this actually may bring about structural changes in the brain that help maintain lifespan. So it really is true that on a day that you're feeling so stressed out and your anxiety levels are up, if you take a moment to pause and kind of clear your mind, your body will go from fight and flight, that sort of mentality, to just back in the regular rhythm of things. And that, of course, is going to be healthier for you, because getting extreme, having a constant fight or flight builds up cortisol in your body, which is not good for your body in those large amounts. So meditation can help with memory, with chronic illness, overall mentality of your life. I highly recommend it. It's definitely worth doing. Flow is this awareness of self, and time kind of diminishes while you are performing the task. I think I had the flow video posted this week, so definitely take a look at that and take some notes on it. So we have different levels of awareness as well. So areas in which you have low levels of awareness are death, coma, sleep, daydreaming, and non-conscious processing. So if you're at a grocery store and you're just grabbing things at random, filling your cart kind of on autopilot, this is low-level awareness. But if you are someone who is highly aware of what you're putting in your grocery cart, maybe doing the mental math, all of that, like fully invested, then that's more high awareness. So then we have the cost and benefits of awareness. So low awareness, the cost is that you're kind of influenced by little factors. Maybe one of the chips bags are more appealing than others. It has more appealing colors on it, or has a really flashy tagline. But it also maybe is a little bit more expensive, but you throw it into your cart because, hey, you kind of were influenced by that consumerism kind of tagline that it had. And one of the benefits of this is that it saves mental effort. Maybe you don't want to spend 2 hours in a grocery store going through the pros and cons of each item that you're getting. High awareness is when you use mental effort, and a benefit of this is it can overcome some biases. So same thing with the chip bag. If you took a moment to kind of become more aware, take a look at the chip bag, ingredients in it, maybe just because of the packaging is pretty, maybe it's not necessarily what you should get. Maybe it has higher levels of sodium, or maybe there's a chip bag that tastes better and just not as good at broadcasting that. Okay. So we are going to talk a little bit about sleep. We need 8 hours of sleep per night to actually function well. And if we do not have enough sleep, or if we're interrupted during our sleep, it can be associated with mood, irritability, depression, and lethargy. It can also affect thinking. So sleep loss is associated with slower reaction times and a general feeling of just being in a funk. And we already talked about sleep disorders. Okay, here are some a little bit more showy types of consciousness, is hypnosis. So historically, hypnosis was done to, it was kind of like a pop psychology type thing. Um, and it became more popular as more and more people started to seek it out and try it. But there are some actual therapeutic benefits of hypnosis. So smoking cessation is a real thing, and you go to a hypnosis and they hypnotize you, or you go to a hypnotist and they hypnotize you, and in some cases it does show that it decreases smoking, and potentially allows the person to quit smoking completely. Okay, these are just little stages of sleep. There are some dream research. I don't have a lot of information on this because I don't do a lot with the dream research. It's not really something I don't want to say interested in, but just don't have time for right now. Of course, it's always interesting. Let me click on this link and see what it shows you. Okay, so I think it's just a TED Talk, so I might actually upload that, and we will. $67. All right, sorry about that. I'm going to upload that to Blackboard. So let me get back to the actual content. Okay. So there's also hallucinatory drugs. So hallucinogens include the kind of psychedelic mushrooms, LSD, PCP, ketamine, or Special K, and other drugs. Most of these hallucinogens are illegal, although some are widely used in traditional ceremonies, so as a cultural type of thing. Hallucinogens often alter the consciousness by affecting perception of time, and often creates visions that are not real, such as strange colors and shapes, geometric patterns moving across surfaces, those types of things. So I will show this video because it is a really cool video to see. See if I can pull it up. Okay, so let me share this section. Okay, so let me close that. Go back to sharing. So that was someone who was given drugs, hallucinogens, by his doctor or a research. It was a research study done in the 1950s. So very interesting stuff, and as you can see, it really can change your perception of things. All right, so like I said, coffee technically creates an altered state. And these types of stimulants, which it is a stimulant, is highly addictive. I don't want to say I'm addicted to coffee, but I definitely prefer it in the morning. Um, and it's something that I think is an American staple in particular. I don't know if other cultures or countries has something kind of like this that is kind of their go-to staple drink. I'm sure they do. It may or may not be coffee. So um, caffeine or excessive, especially excessive amounts of caffeine, can lead to anxiety, insomnia, and uncomfortable withdrawal states. So that's in extreme cases. Um, Stimulants on a whole are usually highly addictive, um, such as cocaine and meth. This kind of works by blocking the reuptake of dopamine. This means that dopamine is not taken back in, it builds up, which causes that euphoria type feeling and accelerated thought and motor action. So kind of has this kind of like a building block type thing. So maybe you have 2 or 3 times as much dopamine as you need in your body, and it creates this feeling of euphoria. And then we also have depressants. This is used to suppress the nervous system. The most common depressant used, aside from alcohol, are those used for medical purposes, such as painkillers. So many of these painkillers come from derived from opium, which comes from poppy flowers. So that's why painkillers are often called opiates. And they tend to suppress the central nervous system. And this is often through that mechanism of initiating the production of GABA, which if you go back to our biology section, you can review that. A neurotransmitter associated with quieting the nervous system. So that's why some downers are prescribed to treat anxiety, because it helps kind of quieting that that particular neurotransmitter. Okay, so we also have alcohol. Indicators of disorder for alcohol: cannot cut down or stop, frequently uses despite negative consequences, use interferes with work or relationships, experience tolerance, so you can keep drinking and drinking way more than is good for you, and often people hide their use. So if this is something that you feel you can relate to, or if it's something that you have a family member or a friend who's struggling with it, please reach out if you need, or also the counseling center. I think Frederick has a counseling center, or we can hook you up with resources. So it's also true. Okay, so just a little review. We went over the levels of awareness. We went over other states such as hypnosis or trance-like states. Talked about sleep, and we talked about psychoactive drugs. So I hope this was helpful, and just keep an eye out for the next week's video.